안녕하세요. 사이먼 몰리입니다. 영국 사람입니다. I'm an artist and an art historian. I live in Korea. I teach at 단국대학교, Dankuk University. I'm also one of the contributors to the catalogue for this exhibition, and you can find my text in the catalogue. So what I'm going to do in this short talk is talk about the main points I make in my essay in the catalogue. And what I'm going to focus on particularly is the monochrome. What is it? What does it mean? And how has Changsongwa pushed forward the whole idea of the monochrome in a very unique and perhaps we can say very Korean way. So let's start by taking a look at a monochrome painting by Chung Sang Hwa. So here I am standing next to one of Changsongwa's first monochrome paintings. Might be a little bit difficult for you to see. I know that the camera crew have had a problem trying to get it to stand out against the wall. I'll come back to that problem about monochromes in a minute, but let's first of all take a look at what he was making only 2 years before he made this painting. So I've walked just a few meters from the painting we just looked at briefly to this one. And I've also moved back in time in Chung Sang Hwa's career 2 years. Okay, so this is 1971. What a difference. You might well be thinking that these are not works by the same artist. They're so different. What can you see? You can, for example, you can see very clearly something that perhaps reminds you of nature in this picture. This is what we would call an abstract painting, yeah? But it's the kind of abstract painting that makes you think of something beyond just the colors and shapes that you can see within the painting itself. You probably think of something organic, right? Something that's from nature, flowers, seeds, something that's connected to the world, the colorful world of nature. In other words, the fact that when you look at a painting like this, you immediately start making some kind of association outside the painting to something you remember, that you're familiar with, in this case, flowers, let's say. Perhaps the monochrome is attempting to break that connection, to make you look only at the work itself. So let's go back to take another look at that monochrome painting I was standing next to just now. Okay, so here I am again with this painting. You can see more or less what it looks like. It's from 1973, and just to remind you, the painting we just looked at was only from 2 years before that. So what can we tell about the monochrome from looking at this picture? Well, first of all, that it's kind of not very easy to look at, to see. Whereas the painting we were looking at just now, there's very clearly color contrasts and different shapes. And you can focus on this and you can focus on that, and it's all quite a lively visual activity. A monochrome, on the other hand, is not very lively, or even, we might say, interesting in a visual way. The monochrome artist, an artist who works like this, and of course, you have to remember that Chung Sang Hwa's monochrome is part of a larger family of monochromes, which include quite a number of Western artists who began making work in this way at the beginning of the 20th century. By this way, I think we could say what I mean is that these are all over paintings. That's how they're normally described. All over means that there's no one place within the picture that your eye is drawn to. You don't focus on any particular area of the picture. It's all the same. This is probably why many people find monochrome paintings uninteresting or even at one extreme, not even art. But obviously for Chung Sang Hwa, this was a really major breakthrough for him, because he continued to make these kinds of paintings for the rest of his life, and he's continuing to make them today. He wanted to create pictures that are not, what we might say, particularly visually stimulating, but they're stimulating in other important ways. Let's now go and have a look at another monochrome, a bigger one, where we can see a little bit more clearly what's going on the surface of these paintings. Well, now we've moved into another part of the exhibition. We've moved also forward 18 years in the career of Chung Sang Hwa, and here we are standing in front of a rather large monochrome painting. And again, camera crews had a problem trying to light the thing, and I'm not sure what you can see now as I talk in front of it. Perhaps one of the simple messages of a monochrome, by the way, is that you got to see a real one. You cannot possibly get a real experience of a monochrome by looking at it in a photograph. I mean, for example, if I'm standing here now in front of this picture, and I can lean in close to it, and I can get to see what's going on the surface of the picture, which actually is an amazing amount. This might, to you, from on this film, look like just a perhaps even black rectangle, but it's not even black. It's actually a deep brown with flecks of a lighter brown towards the top. It's darker at the bottom than at the top. Also, it's not completely flat. It's actually a grid of vertical and diagonal lines crisscrossing the surface. And actually, that's an incredibly complex surface, if you think about it. It might be repeated throughout the surface, but actually it's an awful lot of variety there, because also within each of these crisscrosses and diagonals and verticals, the paint is very varied. And this is the result of a very particular technique of making the picture, a very unique, I think, to Chung Sang Hwa, the way he makes this painting. He doesn't just work the front of the painting, he also works the back of the painting, creasing the canvas before it's stretched on the wooden frame, and cracking the paint so the surface is broken up, and the little veins and cracks and fissures in the surface. And then he fills some of that in again with more acrylic paint. So it's a very, I could say, weird, strange way of making a picture. And also, going back to the point I made when we looked at the earlier picture, which probably made you think of nature, it's something outside the picture. I think it's probably true to say that when you look at this picture, you're not going to start imagining or making a connection to something out there in the world. You're going to focus your attention on what's going on inside that rectangle, the painting itself. And this is actually one of the key points about monochrome painting, that the artist who makes a monochrome is probably interested in making you attend to what's happening inside that picture. And that also means something else, which we can think about when we look at another painting by Chung Sang Hwa, the final one for today's talk. Well, here we are in front of a very large blue painting from the mid-1990s. And again, I'm not sure how much you can actually see now as I talk in front of it. You notice they filmed me taking a closer look, and that's of course what you're invited to do by a painting like this. You're not just supposed to stand in front of it as you normally do perhaps in front of most paintings. This is a kind of painting where you're supposed to become more engaged, move around in front of the picture, move in close, look at it from the side, see how much changes depending on where you are. So this is the key point, that this is a kind of painting that involves you more than the normal painting, which might be a bit surprising because, as I've said, there doesn't seem to be much to look at. But obviously this is more than just looking. It's what we call haptic art. Haptic means essentially a kind of art where it's more than just using your eyes. It's about touching. Well, of course, you're not allowed to actually touch it physically. You get arrested or thrown out or whatever. But with your eyes, you can touch things. But haptic is also about moving. So it's about touching and moving. And this is a kind of art that emphasizes that kind of experience. It's an experience of painting that adds other dimensions to the visual experience. And that's what a monochrome painting can do. And that's definitely what Chung Sang Hwa's paintings do.